What's your birthday, Joe?
December 17th, 1925. Oneida, New York. Graduated from high school.
What year was that?
1943.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I'll tell you how well I remember it. I got a newspaper. I saved it all these years. War declared. They thought Japan was crazy. You know, and of course everybody was apprehensive. You know, what's going to happen now? All our boys are going to get killed, you know, typical panic. I know we had courses, like there was Italian course, German, and French. And they took the German and Italian courses all right away. Everybody was going home to join. Quite a few of my classmates, when we got into senior year, they were given the opportunity to join the service if they had enough points or whatever it was, however they measure. They could join the service and get their diploma. I had to get drafted. My parents wouldn't sign for me. I had to get drafted. My parents wouldn't sign for me. At that time, the Air Force was part of the Army, so I had no choice but to go in the Army. Fort Dix, that's where I was inducted. That's where they shave all your hair off and so on. They give you all the tests, and they found out I was a good typist. They interviewed me. They were going to keep me in Fort Dix. A sergeant came into barracks, called out my name. He says, "Follow me." Now, this is a true story. He says, "Follow me." So we go marching down the street, you know, and headquarters. I go in a big plush room, at the desk there. He says, "Wait here." Some guy come in with, I think he was a colonel or a major. He had enough gingerbread, so he leaned over. And he had look at some papers. He said, "Well, we're going to keep you here at Fort Dix." I said, "What am I going to tell my grandchildren? That I fought the war in Fort Dix?" He said, "Soldier, I'll warn you that you're doing in the Army. You do what you're told." I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "What were you interested in?" I said, "Air Force." Pretty soon they give us our orders, time to ship out. 13 cars on the train, I counted them. And they kept calling names. The first cars were coaches. And they finally got to my name. There were 3 Pullmans on the back end of that string of cars. So they put me on a Pullman, believe it or not. I said, "Oh boy, I'm going to be cannon fodder now." Yeah. So the train left and didn't tell us where we were going until way out, we were in the Midwest, the Shepherd Field, Texas. So he must have taken that to heart and fixed me up. They started out with basic training. It was just like infantry basic, where you climb over the things, and they give us these little carbines. And when we finished that, I think it was about 6 weeks of that, and then they shipped me out to Las Vegas, gunnery school. And I spent some time there. Don't remember exactly how many weeks, but then from there, they shipped me to Tampa, Florida, Drew Field. I joined the crew.
What were you trained to do as part of that crew? What was your...
Gunner, waist gunner. As part of the basic training, it was infantry. And they took us down to the range. They had a machine gun set up, caliber 30. And sergeant corporal, whoever he was, said, now in so many minutes I'm going to fire that machine gun over your heads. So you take your little shovels and you go down there and dig a trench, or dig a foxhole. And they're going to fire this gun. So boy, that scared me. I got down there was dirt flying all over the place. And the guy next to me, he said, I said, aren't you going to dig? He said, hell no. He said, you think they're going to shoot that gun? And they didn't. We went to Savannah, Georgia, Hunter Field, picked up a brand new airplane. Finally from Savannah, we shipped out and we were told that we were going to Europe. We hopped from Savannah to Bangor, Maine. We were there one day. We went to Gander, Newfoundland, and refueled. Woke up the next morning, and the snow had blown in right up to the top of the doors to go into barracks.
Oh my gosh.
I said, oh boy, I'm going to be here for the duration. Yeah, forget it. Tail of that plane sticking out of the snow. I said, they'll never dig it out. Boy, they did. And we took off, we landed in Wales. Got to our base, and I remember getting off the truck and seeing all these B-17s, you know, really ominous.
Did you get a sense that you would be flying missions soon?
Oh, we knew we'd be flying missions, yeah. Right from Station 134, 8th Air Force.
8th Air Force.
Yeah. We lived in Quonset huts, and very cold. And of course, they had a squadron orderly room. And at night, before you go to bed, you go down there and look at the call board, see if your name was on it. Well, the first mission I flew was Dresden.
Oh.
And yeah, we killed a lot of people. So you go down there and look, see if your name is on it, what position you're flying. Or, you know, because everything is precise. It's not like in the movies. Everything is precise. Well, then you go back and try to get some sleep. Well, at any time between midnight and 4 or 5 in the morning, you feel a hand on your shoulder, time to go. They have a guy goes around, wakes you up. So then you go to breakfast. That's the first thing you do. There's a reason for that. I'll tell you in a minute. Yeah. You go to breakfast, then you come back and you brush your teeth and comb your hair, and you know, you do it. And then you can go back to your barracks or whatever, but you gotta be at the briefing room at a certain time. So there's a big curtain up there. You still don't know what mission, where the mission's going. And then somebody comes up, pulls that curtain open. Oh, Berlin, you know. Kill time until the time that you go out and man your planes. And then pretty soon they'll shoot a flare off. And that means start engines. And that's a sound that's never ever going to be repeated. You can't forget that. All of a sudden you hear one plane, then 2, then 3. And you can imagine what the sound is like. There's usually 36 or 37 planes on a mission. You can imagine all those planes with 4 engines running. So then they got start engines, taxi, take off. Well, you don't just take off and go up there. It's precise. I'll show you an actual pilot's briefing for a mission. You take off and you have navigator notifies the pilot of all the turns. And you go like maybe 1,000 feet, and then it'll say north by northeast and like that. Then you have an exact turn. You gotta remember now, you're not the only group in the air. And England is not very big, so collisions are possible and happen. Then you taxi, and you've got to take off and form that group formation up, whatever altitude they've got on your briefing. I'll show you them. I've got my pilot give me some copies. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll explain it to you. Well, then when you get to a certain altitude, you form up your group. And then you head for Germany. And coming back, they've got the estimated time of return.
So you're heading in a group and you're heading towards your target.
Right.
So let's say it's Dresden. At what point does the leader say, all right, now we're going to drop bombs or we're going to do our mission? What's the leading point? What's the trigger? Do you hear something in your headsets that...
Well, you see the bomb bay doors open. I could see them. You know, you can see the bomb bay doors open. You know you're starting your bomb run. That's when the northern bomb site takes over. And you spread out. You spread your planes. That's when you get pretty heavy anti-aircraft fire if it's an important city.
How high are you? What's your altitude at that point?
Oh, anywhere from 18 to 25,000.
You're the gunner, right?
Right.
The gunner. Did you get a lot of flak? I mean,
A lot of flak, but not many fighters.
Yeah. And how many missions, by the way, did you do?
I flew 14 actual bombing missions and one mission to drop food behind the lines to the Dutchmen. And bombed Berlin, bombed Pilsen. And then at the very end of the war, the Germans hadn't surrendered yet. There was a fort south of the landings, the beach for Normandy. It's called Fort Royan. It was a French fort before the war. Well, Germany left a group of Germans in there to man that fort. And the Allies were all surrounding them. But they didn't want to attack them and waste a lot of lives because they knew those guys were doomed. So we went in there and bombed them. They still wouldn't surrender. So we went in the next day, and I think they call it napalm now. We called it jellied gasoline. We plastered it with jellied gasoline. They surrendered. With a debriefing.
What happened there? Did one of the commanding officers sort of ask each plane?
Well, they had a bunch of tables, small tables, and interviewers. And you just had told them what you saw, and you know. Well, I remember Berlin. We went there. We had our plane carried 18 100-pound bombs, which are a little bit the next step up from a little firecracker. They don't do much damage. But on top of that, we had 2 clusters of incendiaries. Berlin had been bombed so many times it was nothing but a field of rubble. So we dropped the explosive bombs, and then we let go of the fire bombs on top of it. The city was burning. My first mission, Dresden, ME-109 and a jet came up, and they circled the low squadron, and they didn't attack. Our colonel was very strict on formation flying. Yeah, very strict. So they wouldn't attack the tight formation. We had one plane was called Alice Blue Gown. We had another one called Love 'Em All.
Love them all.
Yeah, Love 'Em All. Yeah. Had Carolina Moon with a naked girl with a quarter moon, you know, thin.
Yeah.
She was stretched out on her. I wonder what the Germans thought when they saw that. I never felt a real great fear. I just felt kind of resolved to my fate, if you could explain it that way. When they first went over, we still had 2 gunners back there. They didn't change us in the States. They changed us over there. And what happened is they actually took the bombardiers off of the planes. Did you ever have anybody tell you that?
No.
Yeah, they took the bombardiers off the planes.
Why?
Well, you got the northern bomb site, and they figured you're carpet bombing anyway.
Yeah.
So the one plane in the squadron would have would be the leader,
Yeah.
and you
Pathfinder.
dropped your bombs on sight.
Yeah.
See his bombs go out, you toggled yours. So they needed to put a toggler on there. So the other waist gunner, they put him up there to toggle the bombs.
And then you go back and become a waist gunner again afterwards.
Well, he'd stay right up there because there was no bombardier there.
Basically, you only had one waist gunner then.
Right.
So you could move back and forth from the left
You
to the
could
right?
move back and forth, cross, yeah.
You'd have, what, 2 machine guns?
There was one on each side, yeah. Contrary to popular belief, the B-17, even though it had a lot of guns, there were a lot of restrictions on how you could fire those guns. For instance, the tail of a B-17 is probably about that wide.
Mm-hmm.
And the tail gunner's got a little seat like he sits there. And he can, but there's twin guns there, but the tail is only about that wide. You just have to squeeze in there. So he only has a cone of range of fire. So he's limited.
So you couldn't shoot off his own tail.
Right, and it's same way with a waist gun. That's got a limited because you got the wing here,
Yeah,
tail assembly over here.
yeah.
So your range is so many degrees.
But you could elevate the gun, right?
Huh?
You could elevate the gun, but you couldn't lower
You
the
could
gun, right?
only so much, otherwise you'd be down on your knees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had stops on them.
So you had the parachute on the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
No,
No?
we had chest chutes, and most of the time you just kept it where you could reach it. I kept mine hanging by one hook. We lost 2 planes. Let's see, was it ahead of us? It was off the right wing. It was a mission, a scrub the mission the day before. A scrub mission means you get ready to go on a, they say, no, we're not going, the weather's too bad, because their weather prediction was a magic ball, you know. And the ceiling is the amount of clear space from the bottom of the cloud cover to the ground. And it was only about 2,000 feet when we left. It kept getting higher and higher and higher. Pretty soon the whole group is in a total overcast. And the 2 planes off of our right wing, I think it was, collided. And that's another story. Cut one plane right in half with the propellers and took the radio man and threw him up on the upper plane.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
What was left of him.
Yeah.
And then the other, they all got killed. And of course, I didn't see it because I'm looking out the side, and this kind of went by. You know, the B-17 is like 200 miles an hour, and but the 2 planes collide. It's gone. In the overcast, you didn't see them. You couldn't look out the window, watch them go down either. Total overcast. You're flying like this, almost wingtip to wingtip. And the one crew all got killed, and the other one, they all survived.
Involved in the food drop in Holland, Operation Chowhound.
I remember they put plywood in a bomb bay at an angle and put a board across the bottom. And when you got to the target, you just lifted that board up and there's a slit out. They put me in touch with a guy in Holland, and he not only sent me the book, but he sent a necktie with a B-17 dropping food. And the Dutch did all this, the commemoration.
The Germans sort of had this truce as long as you stayed in the corridor.
Yeah. Only one plane that I remember got shot down.
Really?
It wasn't in our group. Other thing is, everybody says about the food dropping down there. Did the Germans take it? From anything I've ever heard, no, they didn't. They were trying to do everything they could to be nice the last couple of weeks of the war, you know. Releasing prisoners and all that stuff.
This is the BBC Home Service. We're interrupting programs to make the following announcement. It is understood that in accordance with arrangements between the three great powers, an official announcement will be broadcast by the Prime Minister at 3 o'clock tomorrow. In view of this fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be treated as Victory in Europe Day.
Squadron newspaper. Of course, word spread around. Had a big party that night.
Did you?
Everybody got drunk. What nobody knew who it was, I had 2 bottles of whiskey in my locker, firing flares from one squadron to the other.
Up the next day after your hangover, what did you have a sense you would be doing next?
Well, they told, the word got around that if you were a combat person, you wouldn't go to the Pacific. But I still got my orders, and it was report to port of embarkation. That was after I had my furlough. So I knew where I was going. But the war ended while I was home on furlough.
Japan surrenders. Japan surrenders. Now repeating the entire bulletin, the Japanese government has accepted the Allied surrender formula.
Well, I was home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was real happy. Yeah.
Was there celebration in the area where you were? Was there marching in the streets? Was there?
Well, no, not my little town. We landed in Connecticut. That's the last I saw of the plane. And they sent us by train to Boston, Camp Miles Standish. And from there to, I think they gave us our furlough from Camp Miles Standish, then we reported to Fort Dix. Because it was still part of the Army. I had to wait till October.
Of 45.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the typing baloney caught up with me. And they put me in a Judge Advocate General office.
Really?
Yeah, boy, I liked that. That was a nice duty. I had 2 murder cases I worked on. And the famous Captain Taylor case, I've tried to find that on the internet. I haven't been able to find it. He was a provost marshal, which is the same level as a sheriff. But he was sleazy. He'd go around to these bars. You ought to remember some of these towns that had air bases or army bases, thousands of soldiers. And he would go around to these bars and he had the right to close them. And he'd say, well, look, I got a party going on next week. So if you help me with some goodies, why, I won't close your bar. And he had 20-some counts against him, including the wife of the local mafia leader. I was supposed to serve her a subpoena, and I still have the clipping out of the Tampa paper. Years after the war, the government caught up with her and sent her to jail for the abortions. She was doing abortions. And but I never did get to serve her a subpoena. The butler would always come to the door and say, she's not home right now. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I like that. I had one case, a guy had a girlfriend. She lived in an upstairs apartment right in town. And she had a boyfriend. And he goes up to her apartment and he finds another guy in there. So they get in a fight at the top of the stairs. And the one guy was tall and the other was a little bit shorter. The short guy was on the first step. So he took out his knife and right through the heart. I actually saw a picture of the autopsy of the heart with a hole in it. I had enough points to muster up, but our Judge Advocate General was a major. And he called me Sergeant Flack. He's a fatherly type, yeah. He called me Sergeant Flack. He was kind of rotund. Nice guy. He was from New Jersey. Major Goldinger. That was his last name, Goldinger.
Wow.
He was a lawyer, but he was a Judge Advocate General for the base. And he called me in, he says, well, you're ready for go discharge. He says, but why don't you stay for a while? He said, it's cold up north. So I agreed. He sent me a 30-day waiver. So it was up, he gave me another 30-day waiver. Pretty soon it's spring. I said, I'm going to go home. He says, okay. And I got discharged. There were a couple of bombs got stuck, and they were one above the other. And they got the shackle on them. It's got a little hook like this. And when you activate the switch, the shackle, it just goes like that. There's just a little distance and it goes down. Well, two of them got hung up. So the toggler, here's what I was telling you, took the place of the bombardier. He went back there and he tried to get the switch working. I don't know if he had a screwdriver or what, I don't know what. He looks up and he sees a hand crank in case your gear didn't go down. And he takes the hand crank and he's pounding on the shackle, trying to break it loose. And the radio man is watching him, so the radio man calls the pilot. He says, that crazy Gene is pounding on the bomb back there. So he called me to go in and help him. And I think we didn't get it out. He went back and run his switches through again and it left. But he was pounding on the shackle.
Bomb activated by that time? The bomb was ready to go up.
Yes, it was
So
activated.
it couldn't land or anything at that point.
Well, no, it wouldn't explode anyway because it has to have impact, real impact. On the Dresden mission, because we were near the Russian lines, they gave us armbands in Russian and English.
Just in case.
And a scapula, which is inside, put in your pocket. It says if you have to bail out and you see some soldiers or people of any kind, don't reach for those tags. Let them take it out of your pocket. Because a lot of them were illiterate. And they came out of the air, shoot it. Yeah. I got that band. I'll show you that too. See all these T's?
Yep. Show them to me.
Those were aircraft.
Ah.
And typed on top of them, this is the name of the pilot. We were Wagner. And the names of the pilot. Now, Wagner was ours. He's right here. Tannenberg, he was one of the planes that was in a collision. He was lucky. They all survived. The other plane broke in half. Let's see, if you look study this, you see the planes are in threes.
Yep.
3, 3, 3. Those 3 plane units are called elements. 12 elements make a squadron, 3 squadrons make a group. From above, it looks like all these triangles. But from the side, they're staggered. Like Wagner would be here, Goldish would be element lead, he'd be in the middle and a little bit ahead. And this Tannenberg, he would be to the right and down a little. Here's your timing. Stations is 7 o'clock. Start engine 7:25. Takeoff at 7:50, 7:40 to 50. Assemble at 18,000. That's pretty high to assemble. Each squadron had a code. Like if you want to radio back to base or you want to radio the group leader, you use these. There's a braid, ratchet. It's the 849 squadron. That's ratchet was our code. Assembly instruction. So you take off and the initial point, that's when you're off of your bomb run and you're coming back. You caught the initial point is the beginning of the bomb run. Rally point is following the bomb run. So you have precise.
Unbelievable. Pilot would be given that.
Pilot, probably navigator. pilot's briefing for a mission.
And every mission had a different sheet then too. Every mission had a different sheet, different arrangement.
Yeah, yeah.
So where would you be normally on this B-17? Joe, what would you be?
Window.
Okay, and you'd be going from either side,
Yeah.
left or right?
When you had the two gunners back there, these windows were staggered. You transferred the gas not from here right direct to the engines. Well, the main tanks were in here,
Yeah,
but when they got low, you transferred the Tokyo tanks, which were out here.
that's odd.
Because the truck would come along just before we started engines, and we'd fill the tanks, fill the Tokyo tanks, and jump up and down on the wing, get everything else we could. And overseas, we had an APO number, Army Post Office. So they allowed you to call home. So I called home and I give my mother the Army Post Office address. And we were in Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the post office took it. Well, about 30 days later, a cake arrives in England.
No kidding.
And I think they stored it next to the boiler. Because it fell apart. Had a whole thing full of crumbs. Oh, I know. When we shipped out of gunnery school, they told us, if you have anybody that's down here can visit you, you're allowed to visit. They can come say goodbye at the train. So we all met at the fenced-in area with this big steam engine pulls the train in. It was I don't think it wasn't a military train. It was just an engine with some cars. So where does this thing go? It pulls into town and backs into the Tampa station. And it was going to be attached to the regular passenger train going west. So all the sweethearts and wives were back at the base. So the conductor comes through and he tells us how much time we got. So I look across the street, there's a liquor store. So I says, what time is this pulling out? And he told me, well, they had the other, that's kind of a watch. And I had time, so I went over and I bought 2 quarts of whiskey. I had them all the time we were over there. I had them hidden in the bottom of my locker and nobody ever noticed it. Well,
While you were in Europe?
Yeah. And I had intentions of throwing one out the window on my last mission, but the war ended. And so I passed out the liquor and everybody got drunk.
So that's the same liquor bottles, you got them as you're leaving Tampa.
Yeah.
You took all the way to Europe, in which you opened up during VE
I
Day.
kept them all the time I was there.
Oh my gosh.
What I find now is I've got a World War II veteran hat. People see that, you'd be surprised how the activities increase of shaking your hand. This is a resurgence.
How's that make you feel?
Good.